Hello everyone, and let's talk about 4K and why it's such a bugger to work with, and why I don't upload in 4K all the time, and why I really don't like working with 4K. I think the biggest problem with 4K is everything takes far too long to process. Like that video I did with the 4K PvP, I did encode it at 4K, 60 FPS. It took 4.5 hours to encode what was a 10-15 minute video. And who has time to sit there and, wait 4 hours? I went to work and left it. I decided I'll go to work. When I came back from work, it had finished, but it took me 4 hours it took to do a 15-minute video. And I just don't think that's very time efficient, to be honest. I would rather upload at 1080p and 60 FPS. And again, 60 FPS, I just don't see the point in either for video. Like, why? What's so special about 60 FPS YouTube video? I mean, you're not playing the game. I like the feeling of 60 FPS when I play a game. Incidentally, the footage that you're looking at is Rise of the Tomb Raider at 4K and high settings. I tried Ultra on the GTX 1070. It was cinematic, shall we say that? Let's just say that. 24 FPS is what we dropped, but dropping the settings down a little bit, or dropping some of the settings down to high, you can get a nice solid 30 FPS. Now a GTX 1070 is not really going to do 4K 60. 4K 30 with decent settings I think looks good. It certainly outdoes the PS4 Pro, which I think is only 1800p it renders at. This is native 4K rendering here at high settings. I was just kind of testing it out. That's with the recording software running. It was recording at 4K 60 FPS, so this video better be short. We better make this short, under 10 minutes this is going to be, because we ain't fucking doing that. Another 4 hours to upload? Hell no, we better keep this one short. I just think that is the other thing about 4K that I don't like, is it's very taxing on the hardware. You can see there, I would rather game at 60 FPS. I would rather record at 60 FPS. I'd rather, well, I'd say you don't really feel the need to, but again, you need to. It's the thing. I don't feel that it's necessary, but if you want to be on YouTube, you gotta upload at 60 FPS because your video gets a higher search ranking if it's 60 FPS. Search rankings are, quality does play a part in it, and if you're at 1080p 30 FPS, and someone uploads a similar video at 1080p 60, yours gets priority as higher quality is prioritized. 4K is even higher quality, and 4K 60, which is even less necessary, I feel. But again, if you play at 4K, we can play at 4K. It's just, I'd rather honestly play at 1440p. Get 60 FPS, because you can get 60 FPS out of Rise of the Tomb Raider. Incidentally, the API doesn't really make a huge difference to the frame rate, I found. DirectX 11 or DirectX 12 doesn't make a huge difference to the frame rate. At 1080p, actually, it does make quite a difference, because we're more limited by the CPU. At 1080p, I mean, I say limited by the CPU. We were running 108 FPS in DirectX 11 and 112 FPS in DirectX 12. So when I say limited, we were running well over 100 FPS. The GPU wasn't limited, but interestingly enough, in that video, 4K, we're at 30 FPS and we're GPU limited and not really CPU limited. I think that's quite interesting the way they work, because obviously we're running 1080p with unlimited frame rate. We're not hitting the limit. We're not getting to the GPU's limit. We're getting to the CPU's limit first. The CPU was an i5 6600K, whereas running 4K, we're getting to the GPU's limit first, obviously because we're running a lower frame rate. And we're not really limiting the GPU. The CPU was at 100% on all 4 cores at 1080p with an unlocked frame rate, whereas it sits around 70% on all 4 cores at 4K. I thought that was quite an interesting insight as to, obviously the frame rate is lower. It does have more draw calls to do. for each frame, but it has longer to do them because it takes longer to render the frame, obviously, because it's, you know, it's 30 FPS as opposed to doing over 100 FPS is what, like 6 or 7 milliseconds or something it has to render each frame at 100 FPS, whereas 30 FPS it's only 33 it has 33 milliseconds, which is an eternity for a CPU. So yeah, a bit less taxing there on the CPU, which is an interesting note. I should point out that encoding and editing 4K video is a pain in the arse, and yes, this video will be 4K. 4K for ironic reasons. I will do it in 4K. YouTube also takes forever to process 4K. I uploaded that video, and sometimes it can take, you know, up to 72 hours to get your video out in 4K. And of course you put 4K in the title, and a lot of people comment, where's the 4K? Where's the 4K? It's like, yeah, you gotta wait forever for YouTube to encode it. If you upload it 4K 60 FPS, then it takes even longer. I mean, you wait a long time for HD. The solution to this is to schedule the video, but then I'm not gonna schedule a video, 3 days in advance and then wait for the 4K to become available. But I just don't see it as a necessity at the moment for YouTube. Certainly for gaming. Gaming at 4K is, for me, it's doable. I mean, I'd say it's doable. It was doable on the R9 390X. I felt it was doable for that as well, but you have to make too many compromises, I suppose. And it feeds into the fact of 4K just being a gimmick, I feel. It's too much of a gimmick right now. Maybe the 1080 Ti is probably going to be the 4K 60 FPS card. It's at least affordable. It's not a Titan XP and costs over $1,000. That might do 4K 60 FPS, but I haven't seen any reviews for it or anything yet, so I haven't really looked at anything for that. I don't really care about the 1080 Ti. Again, it's way out of my budget. I don't care about the 1080. Again, way over my budget. I'd rather have the choice of, you know, 1080p. You can do 1080p 120 with the 1070. You can do 1440p at 60 FPS, and you can do 4K 30 FPS, which is a good choice to have. It's certainly much better than the PlayStation 4 Pro, which offers you sort of 1080p 30 FPS with super sampling in most games, or either 1440p with checkerboard rendering or 1800p with checkerboard rendering. Very few PS4 Pro games, or games that are optimized for PS4 Pro, actually run at 4K, and that's why I would say 4K is just a kind of gimmick thing. Honestly, I would have preferred a PS4 that just ran games at 1080p and 60 FPS. Now, it doesn't do that, and it can't do that. Even if you put the boost mode on for regular games with unlocked frame rates, it gets nowhere near 60 FPS, and that's why I chose PC gaming, because of choice, really. If I don't like the 4K performance, I can drop the resolution. I can drop it at 1440p, and I can have that 60 FPS, or I could drop it to 1080p, and again I can have, you know, more than the 60 FPS. I can get over 100 FPS at 1080p if I wanted over 100 FPS. I mean, I'm quite happy at 60. A lot of people who play competitive games do want over 100 FPS, and that is a nice option for them that they have with the PC. CSGO players in particular always want that 120 or 144 hertz performance. And again, with PC gaming, you do have the option of that. But with the PS4 Pro, it's kind of what the developers pre-chose for you. You know, you can't have the choice to have lower resolution, higher frame rate, or higher resolution, lower frame rate like you do on the PC. But yeah, for me, 4K is, I don't think we're quite there yet. I mean, it's kind of companies trying to push TVs. So if you watch my video at 4K, then, you know, good for you. You're watching this at 4K. I think the majority of people watch videos online anyway, at least at 1080p. I certainly only watch at 1080p. I don't watch at 4K. I'm going to upload this video at 4K though. So if you have a 4K TV, you can enjoy me saying that I don't like 4K. But again, I'm only doing this for ironic reasons. We're about to hit 10 minutes. Shit, we better get out of there. I don't want to be rendering this for a week. I don't want YouTube to then take a week to get this to 4K. So anyway, thank you for joining me for this video, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.